Welcome to the Biz Coach Show, brought to you by My Biz Coaches. Our show is focused on giving entrepreneurs the edge they need to succeed. Our guest today is Caitlin Penny, CEO and brand expert at Copper Theory Creative, a full-service branding and design agency. Copper Theory Creative has serviced over 100 businesses since 2016. They help business owners professionally amplify their brand and clearly represent their vision for their business. Caitlin has also earned the Young Professional of the Year Award from the National Association of Women Business Owners, and she's also the Arts Commissioner for the City of Chandler. Copper Theory Creative was also nominated for Small Business of the Year by the Chandler Chamber of Commerce. Learn more at coppertheorycreative.com. Well, Caitlin, it is great to have you with us today. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, we're excited. I know we've got a lot of great topics that we want to pick your brain on, and we are just very grateful for your time and insight today. Eric, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, David. Good to see you again.
Yep, always a pleasure. So good to hang out with you as always, Eric. Well, Caitlin, I think before we dive into our topics for today, can you kind of tell us a bit about your journey? There's quite a few accomplishments in there, and I'd love to kind of hear how that all played out.
Thank you. It's been a journey. So actually, August was 7 years in business for Copper Theory Creative.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. I started the business back in 2016, but I think I should maybe take a step back, or even before that, and say that I was always a weird art kid. So I've been entered into every art contest, and I always grew up drawing, and something always had to do with arts and crafts. Art plays a real big role in my life. And so by the time I was in high school, probably a junior, I'd say, I knew I wanted to be a graphic designer. I always knew that I was going to have art in my life somehow. So my parents were very supportive in their own way, meaning it was get a scholarship or join the military because you can't live here anymore. So this was before I even turned 18. So I got a scholarship and I ended up going to Collins College and got my BFA in Fine Arts and Graphic Design. And I spent a few years in the industry. I've worked at all women-owned print shops. I've worked at media companies. I've worked at consulting offices. And I've even worked at some nonprofits. And that's when I started my business in 2016. And I was a one-man show for about 5 years. And then I built out the team in the last couple, meaning now instead of just design and print, we are full service marketing and branding.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is super cool. Thanks for kind of sharing that. And Eric, I'm curious, how did you and Caitlin first get connected?
Yeah, so we had to confirm on that, but we actually met through a peer of mine, one of my referral partners. Her name's Robin. We're an associate in a networking group, but I connected with Caitlin then through LinkedIn. Actually checked on her profile, make sure she was on the up and up, and then I went to her site, see kind of what kind of work she did. But we scheduled a meeting. We actually had initially a Zoom call, and then we followed up with a personal meeting. But we found that there's a lot of collaboration opportunities for us, so wanted to take that to the next step. But we when we spoke last time, I'm like, you really should be on the show. That would be a great opportunity.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you.
Well, very cool. Well, thanks for sharing a bit about your journey. And I'd be curious, can you give us a little bit more of an overview of Copper Theory Creative? You mentioned full service. Kind of what does that mean, and what are some of the clients that you serve?
So now that means that we offer a multitude of services. We offer copywriting, branding, graphic design, social media, website development, SEO, ads, and print. And so that means that no, I do not do it all by myself. I have a team of 5, and each one of those people are individuals that I have met over time throughout networking, and I ask them to be part of the team. And that just means that they actually all have business that they own offering that specific service, and I white label or outsource the copywriting or social media or anything else that I don't do, because I am a brand expert. So I focus solely on all of the design things in business, and then we work as a team, and we have a great time.
Awesome. Always makes it more fun when you enjoy the people you work with, right? So that's awesome.
Right. I mean,
Yeah, right.
for everyone to make money, And
Yeah.
so if that means owning your own business and working together instead of just saying, here's a referral, have a great day, I'd rather do that.
Cool. Oh, that's awesome. Well, today we are talking about building a better brand. So it seems like we got the right person for that based on what you just shared. And I think when people hear branding, that can be maybe a little nebulous. It's kind of a broad term. Can you help us break that down into maybe some specific elements?
Right. So your branding, it's actually hard to break it down into specific elements, but branding is your whole entire business. So it means the experience you're offering to your clients, your visuals that you're producing, your digital presence, the way you treat people, your brand voice, the services and products that you offer. I mean, anyone can start a business and see what sticks, right? Like you can throw spaghetti at a wall too, but let's be a little bit specific and niche things down. And it's your target market, your purpose, your values, your demographic, and all of those things combined create a representation of the brand. And then branding would be more so colors, fonts, everything that would keep things consistent within. And then also when you leave the room, how do people describe you? How do people describe what your business offers? And what does that look like?
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, that's a great summary. I think oftentimes, I'll hear people kind of lump branding and marketing together, but I'm curious from your perspective, are they different? And if so, how?
Yeah, I think they're different. Branding is the what, marketing is the how. So you can have all of the things aligned and everything looks super great in a fun folder on your computer, but what have you done with it? And that's where we come in. We help you not only strategize, but also implement a marketing plan, get everything in order, and make sure you have all the pieces that you need, and then create a strategy based around your target market or maybe your goal that you want to accomplish.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thanks for that.
I was going to say one of the things that resonates with me, as you know, David, we've worked with some marketing agencies, and one of the opportunities to coach, particularly with marketing agencies, seems to be in many cases stick to what you're good at, and and I think that's true of any, particularly a service-based business. I probably relevant to any business, particularly in not necessarily a startup mode, but in the years 1 through 3, 1 through 5, somewhere in there, you really, until you get to about the first $1 million in revenue, you really stick to one product, one scheme, one concept. And the challenge becomes is that, well, I should do this and I should do this and I should do that. And you start adding in these other components of the business when you're not even doing the first one really well. And so what we found in the past is that if you kind of strip that down, and I'm talking about from a service provider perspective, when you strip it down, you focus on the one thing that you do really well. That's generally where you're going to find the results. Ironically, in Caitlin's case, what she's been able to do is she's brought in other people who focus on what they do and be able to bring that together as a collective solution, which what I like about that is, and as you know, David, we recently had conversations even about my Biz Coaches, the branding, right? Keeping branding consistent between some of the different projects that we have, not just with you got my Biz Coach, and then you got the Biz Coach Show, and you got the newsletter, and you got some other components of that, and then you have our social media. And I don't think that many of them were definitely not, because I created them all, not consistent from a brand perspective, color schemes and things like that. So and I see a lot of clients that also struggle with that perspective because they don't look at it from a holistic perspective. So they somebody like Caitlin who can come in and say, okay, we need to tie these things together. So I know that was one of the things that really drew me to what Caitlin was doing and the strategy behind the way that she built the business model and what she's been growing over the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd be curious maybe to pick that apart a little bit more, Caitlin, as I think about, people that might watch this or listen to this, right? They're small business owners, and branding may seem like something, a larger company does. That's like an enterprise level thing to engage in. I'd be curious from your perspective, why is it important for a small business to focus on branding even in those early stages?
I think it's very important to focus on it. I understand that in the beginning, everyone's kind of bootstrapping and figuring out how to accomplish all of the things that you think you need for business. But in reality, if you just look at your business plan and maybe your business values. So for example, we have a few different values here at Copper Theory. Our tagline is go change the world in your own way. I want to know that you believe that you are doing that. And so I always conduct an interview with our potential clients. And I like, that's how Eric and I got together, is I like having the conversation. And that tells me all the whys about the business, why you started this, because most people didn't start their business for finance or marketing. So we want to figure out how we can help you. And then it's, once you get maybe over the hump of the DIY way of doing things, it's always great to invest in someone that is an expert or a professional at what they do, so you can go out and be the expert at what you do. Why waste time in Canva trying to design something for 3 hours that you might not have the colors, fonts, you're just guessing at this point, and maybe it's not a high resolution logo file that you're using. Well, instead we'd have all of those things in a folder organized, and I'd probably be able to do it in a fraction of the time that you are trying to figure out how to do Canva, how to export it, how to design something, because if you don't have a creative eye, it's not going to work. I'm sorry. I actually have a talk that I do, and it's 5 ways to make sure your brand isn't holding you back. And number 5 is your Canva subscription does not make you a designer. So hire a professional.
You've just now officially offended David.
I know. I'm sorry, David.
No. I'm in no qualms about it.
I know that some people can only hear us, not see us, but I usually get the hand over the face, like don't pick me out of the crowd thing. Like, okay, so it's not me, I swear. And so, why not create a strategy? And I didn't even really finish the rest of the values, but when you have certain values in business, it also, I figured out that it not only attracts the right clientele that you want to be working with, but my whole entire team shares the same values. And those are change the world in your own way, give back to the community in some type of way, and be passionate about what you do.
Awesome. I love it.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great segue into my next thought or question for you, which is, when somebody's designing a product or a service, I think oftentimes, they focus on the function or, how they're going to accomplish it, the process, whatever it is. Why is it important, or I guess, how does the aesthetic of that product or service, or maybe the artistry that goes into it, improve the perceived value of it?
Well, I'm going to give you a good analogy here. You wouldn't show up to an interview for a job that you really want in sweatpants, would you?
I wouldn't. I don't know about Eric.
Well, trust me, that everyone out there, if you really wanted this job, you're probably going to dress like you want it, right? And so, why not make sure that the message is clear and you're showing up for the reason that you want to help your clientele? Make it a statement. Have good visuals that identify and communicate the reason that you want to help them and the problem that they're having, whether it's a pain point or a pleasure point. You're giving them a solution on how they could advance or amplify their brand.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Eric and I have talked about this one. A pet peeve I have is companies that don't have a website, period, or it's built in 1990, right? So some of those things, but I think it's important, right, for the small business owner to look at that and say, hey, if you have 2 companies that provide comparable services at a comparable price, but one of them just looks better, it's more polished, the logo's better, the fonts are better, even if they don't understand why it looks better, they don't understand the graphic element behind it, it's clearly going to stand out as, well, I'm going to go with that one, right? And I think that people underestimate the impact that has.
Yeah, and it's all about first impression. And so, it's funny that you mentioned the website thing, because I always say, not having social media is like not having a website in 2005. Everything in the digital space is a credibility or a brand awareness thing at this point. Whether you're super active or not also is very important. But at the same time, why not just have that good website put together for people to be able to contact you, and then touching on your functionality point, yeah, it has to also be user friendly, because if I go to the website and I can't find where your services are, I'm just going to go to the next one. I mean, especially with social media nowadays, the attention span is that of a gnat. I'm pretty sure it's about 3 seconds at this point with anything online. And with touch points and everything, I think, what did it used to be 7? It's more like 20 now. So why not be the best looking website, account, brand that you could be, and make that great first impression?
Yeah, makes sense.
I got to admit, I actually stole your quote the other day. I actually used it in a meeting. We were having a conversation. We're doing an event in a couple of weeks, and and I mentioned to the people we were partnering up with for the event, I said to him, I said, I heard the other day from somebody that said that having social media was the equivalent of not having social media today was the equivalent of not having a website in 2005. And they were like, wow.
That's pretty strong. I know I should have started this whole conversation with warning label, please. I really don't hold back as far as branding goes. I'm that passionate about it. Yeah, I mean, and I touched on speaking too. If you're a speaker, an author, even a coach like Eric, and you're talking in front of people, I mean, people are making that purchase based on emotion and then justifying it later. And so, having social media is just super important nowadays, because I could be on stage and I'm talking right in front of you, or you see me in the flesh right here. And then the first thing that your audience is going to do is go home and look you up on Instagram to make sure you're real.
If they're not doing it while you're talking.
Right. Yeah. Or they could just be scrolling. I mean, it's crazy, but it's the world we live in today.
Yeah. No, it's a great point. I actually I saw a gentleman speak. He's an Instagram influencer in the mortgage industry. And it was a real estate event that I was at. It was like 225 people in the room or something like that. He's up on stage, and he did a quick demonstration. He did a live demonstration with his Instagram feed on the big screen. And but as he's talking, he's sharing these statistics. I have 156,000 followers and blah, 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 blah. And he's talking about the content that he built and everything and what his site. So as he's talking, I'm on my phone looking him up, and I'm like, okay, let's see if he's really. and then I'm scrolling through all the stuff that he's posted. And it was kind of interesting, just the to your point, my natural inclination was to go and do my research. And then from there, I went and looked at his LinkedIn profile, and I went to his website.
Yeah. Well, and then it makes so much sense, because if you think about it, top search engines besides Google are Pinterest and YouTube, and then TikTok is creeping up there, especially with the younger generation. They use TikTok as a search engine to find the nearest bar, or what's cool in Phoenix, or just the most trendy thing. And so why not make sure that you're present on there?
Yeah.
No, and to your point, I think I mean, as a coach, that's one of the big things we say today, is that you cannot not have some social media presence. And if you're going to be on any of them, we give them in a certain order. As a matter of fact, what would your order be? What would be the 2-3 top suggestions for social media for somebody?
Ooh, suggestions overall. So my suggestions would be to be consistent. Posting a few times a week is always good. If you can post every day, do that. And then be genuine. And I know being authentic, it's like a buzzword at this point, but honestly, with the algorithms and the amount of people that are on, what is there, like 15 billion users on Facebook? I don't even know, but it's that much, right? They can see right through it. It's the same as standing in front of you. And if I was just spouting off lies to you, you're gonna be able to tell. First, I'm not a good liar, but second, you're probably going to be able to tell that I'm BSing you, right? And so, talk about the things that you like, talk about the things that relate to your brand, and be genuine. Tell a story, and that all plays into the algorithm as well. And if you don't know anything about the algorithms, ask someone about it. It's like magic at this point, because not even us marketers know when it changes or when it gets altered, and figure out what works right now. But then also, as far as social media as a whole goes, I would suggest, to your point earlier, getting good at one thing and then moving on. You don't have to be on every single social media platform. I'm not. where is your audience and at what time of day are they interacting on that app? And that's when you should post, and that's where you should be.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think, some great points on, some stuff that every business owner should be thinking about. And I'm curious, why is it important for business owners to invest in branding, again, especially maybe if they're, in the first couple of years of starting their business?
They should definitely invest in it because, like I said, it is your first impression, and people want to know that you're serious about business. And the better you look and the more professional you look online, the easier it is for people to invest in you. And then, if you have an exit plan, if you want to sell the business at some point, and no, it's not something we've even touched on yet, but if you want to get there, I mean, it's part of the valuation at this point. And how do you hand that off to someone with a legitimate number attached to it if you don't have anything going on within the brand? You have to be very clear with every single effort that you have within your marketing strategy and branding. And so on top of producing great content, on top of having great visuals, also think about how you represent your brand in the room, like as a person standing in a networking group.
Yeah. So fair to say, based on that branding not only helps, the perceived value of your products and services, but also potentially the valuation of your business if it's well branded. Is that a fair assessment?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that, the better organized that you are as a brand, the easier it is to be referred or known by word of mouth. I mean, if we're talking about, if you want to be Nike or Apple here, how did they do it? They had specific demographics that they were targeting. They knew what they were selling. They knew what kind of people were going to buy it. And then they kept evolving as brands, and they didn't just let it sit here for 30 years or not update their website in 20 years. And they evolve because you evolve as a person. And if you're a small business, your business is also evolving. So why not pay attention as things happen? And it's okay if things change. I mean, you've changed, and that probably is for the better. Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah. So, and I was just going to add to that. Yeah, I think that the ironically, as I'm hearing her say that, and I'm definitely a culprit of, get the website up, get it where it needs to be, and then we're good with it, right? And so much more today. Not only is it your calling card, not isn't and when I say website, I'm literally talking about all your digital presence. I'm talking about your Google profile. I'm talking about whatever you have on social media, whatever presence you have out there. You got to keep it fresher. I mean, even if it's not every day. To your point, it needs to be updated and consistent. Right. But yeah, I was guilty of not being consistent with the branding. I'd take the time and set up the profile, and then I'm like, oh, I'll come back and do that later. But it has the wrong web link on it. It has the wrong this on it. It doesn't have the same calendar connection because I switched calendars and didn't update it. I mean, it's just simple things like that you just take for granted, that over time, as you start spreading around, and then I should have Facebook isn't the place to be now. It's Instagram. So I pop up an Instagram account. I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, I think it was. And, I throw together an Instagram account and attach it to my, what was at that time, the coaching profile that I had, which is not my Biz Coaches, because we rebranded 3 years ago. And when I rebranded, I never went back and cleaned those profiles up. And I'm just like, so you just got all these sporadic accounts everywhere with no consistency amongst them. And that's where I see clients doing what I did, and I realize I'm like, no, I mean, as a consumer, I look at that and I'm like, oh, that's so disconnected. That's almost, it's hard for me. It's like, I'm like, is this the same company? Are you even doing the same thing? Is this service the same service? And I think that lots of times clients can't make that, our clients, but business owners don't make that correlation. They don't realize that it's particularly for, and we had this conversation, Caitlin, I say it's 45. I draw the line in the sand at 45. Anybody older than 45 really isn't as familiar with digital media, but anybody younger than 45, that's their first solution. It's some form of digital media, and it's not necessarily a website. it's typically something on social and social media space.
Yeah, I mean, they grew up in that space. I mean, even myself,
Yep.
I remember, like, I've always had a computer. It's never not been a thing, you know? And so being versed in the online situations and marketing and platforms and everything that happens on the internet, it comes naturally to them. So if you're looking like it's not so much coming as naturally, they think you're out of business. They think you don't exist anymore.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it could, and you can have everything going on. I mean, I was talking to this company yesterday, and he's like, "Here's my Instagram. I haven't touched it in 5 years." And I was like, "Oh boy, okay." Okay. So, and the more time you let go by on the, in the in between, the harder it is to start over. The harder it is to keep yourself accountable with that. And then, I get a lot. So I mean, I can relate. So my personal social media, you'll see my toes in the sand every 6 months, and I'm just not a social media person. Listen, I do it all day. I don't want to sit on my couch and also do after hours, right? If there are any after hours, but still, I don't want to do it. It's like a job to me. And so I get I don't want to do it. Can you help me? I hate social media. Can you help me? Please help me somehow. Like, just don't hire a professional if you don't want to do it, because it's a credibility thing. And if you want to get noticed, you have to have an online presence. I mean, and we can even go back as far as talking about the pandemic too. Everyone freaked out. And to be honest with you, I was designing trade show booths before the pandemic. I wasn't doing digital marketing here and there. But if you had a brick and mortar and didn't have an online place to order things or order food or buy things, you were dead.
Right.
Yeah.
And so why not prepare for that now? Not saying it's going to happen again, but
Well, no, but I think to your point,
to
your point, that's a wake up call for a lot of people, because not only did the pandemic put a lot of people out of business, but it also made a lot of other people who maybe didn't go out of business quickly to identify that I've got to be able to pivot in a moment if I need to. And if you could go back to 2008 with the real estate issue that we had then, and then you couple that with what happened with the pandemic, which were only 10 years apart, 11 years apart. And you could say in the last 20 years, we've had 3 or 4 major, or at least reasonably significant disruptions that have affected businesses dramatically. Because you go to 9/11, then you can go to 2008. There was another spit in 2017, I think it was, and then there was 2009 or 20 with pandemic, and every one of those scenarios, small business owners, which are my target audience and yours as well, right? Small business owners have been crushed in many cases, and so much so because they don't have capital reserves, they don't have things in place. And I think that what 2008 proved for a lot of people, because what happened in 2008 is a lot of companies, if they didn't have a web presence, one, that hurt them dramatically because people stopped buying. And when they did buy, they were figuring out how any business who was in place was trying to figure out how they can do things more cost effectively. Outsourcing went over the top, right? And so it was like, I'm not going to have an in-house marketing team. I'm going to outsource it. I don't need to be paying somebody to be in-house marketing. I'm going to outsource it. So it created opportunities, but it puts other people in a different spot. And so anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is that I think that to your point about the pandemic is that it again opened our eyes to the opportunity that we just got to be prepared to pivot. And every small business owner's got to be prepared to pivot in a moment's notice, because if they're not flexible, that it's going to hurt them dramatically, because they don't have the reserves that a Walmart or a Target or any of these big companies, Apple's and whatever, right? Tesla, they don't have the big reserves that they can ride out at a loss for 2 or 3 years.
Right.
The average small business owner is 60 days from insolvency.
Makes sense.
That's an important component that I think that a lot of people have to recognize. And it doesn't directly relate to marketing, but I think it's an important component to your point when you think about digitizing and automating, which is one of my big things that I challenge everybody. I said, if you don't have a site that can transact business, you're not really in business, in my opinion, at this day and age.
Yeah, I think it's super important because a lot of the times, I mean, small business owners are a one-man show or they have a very small team. So to your point, it has to come down to what you can do, what they can do, and what can be automated.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about a couple things. So one is you should have a website, a good website. You should have social media and be active, right? Change things often, I think was something else you mentioned. What are some of the other maybe mistakes that you see business owners make when it comes to their brand, which ultimately hurts their competitiveness in a good market or a bad market, right? To tie in your point, Eric. So what are some of those mistakes that you see business owners make?
The biggest mistake I see business owners making is trying to do everything themselves. I know that kind of plays into our previous point, but you can't grow if you're alone. And so why not have a team that can help you? And whether that is outsourced or not is up to you of how the things work within your business. But that's actually our target market in a way. To explain that further, we work with a lot of companies that are smaller, but know they need marketing, are tired of the DIY success approach, and are looking to hire internally, but maybe don't realize how much that costs.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I was working with a company based out of California, and they were a jewelry company, and she was a one-man show. She had someone helping them package and send things out. But other than that, it was just her. And then she was going to go and hire someone internal for marketing. I don't know if you guys know this, and I know the numbers aren't exactly the same in Arizona, but in the state of California, you have to at least double minimum wage. And then that doesn't include benefits, taxes, or anything else like that you're putting on top of that. So she was looking at paying them more than she pays herself every year. And so what we did is we came to her and said, hey, I have this team that can help you. We can do more than just one thing at a time. And we can do rebrand, we can do website, we can do social media, we can do ads. And we had this huge package for her, and it still came in at about half the amount of money that she would have spent on just hiring someone full time. And from previous experience, working in other organizations, if you have one person as the marketing team, that's only going to last for about 6 months until people are burnt out because one person can't do everything.
Right. Well, even if they could, they don't do it well, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably one of the biggest things that I've learned in working with more marketers and even getting to know a little bit about your business model, Caitlin. The thing that I realized is that if you have somebody who's good at pay-per-click and maybe one or two other things, they're probably not so good at SEO. They're probably not very good or well-versed on social media. If they're good at social media and they're good at, something else, then they're probably not good at email marketing or cold campaigns, cold email campaigns or something like that. And so it's just because, and even then, as you venture into a new topic or category, I should say, and not having experience in it, there's a learning curve there. And it's a pretty significant learning curve for every one of those new disciplines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely. And why not just pair everybody up or put a team together and have them do the thing that they're passionate about or what they're good at? Because like you said, you're going to lose time on that one.
Yeah, totally. Money and time.
Money and time.
Yeah.
See, I thought the biggest mistake was going to be using canned fonts like Papyrus, but I guess I was wrong.
Okay, no Comic Sans either, I swear.
I'm sure you've seen it all.
Oh my gosh, I actually have some memes on my my Instagram that talk crap about Comic Sans. But the funny part is love my parents to death, but I hate driving inside of their housing complex because the sign is Papyrus, and I just want to burn it to the ground. And just like everybody that wanted to do something natural, and I'm giving quotes here, guys, with my hands, like natural or organic or. Arizona has a real bad reputation at using papyrus for things because it looks dusty and deserty. And I'm just like, this is the one, like, this is what came in your Word Microsoft package. This is in Microsoft Office. And it makes my heart hurt a little bit every time I see it. And I'm like, please, if you're like a health spa, for the love of God, please don't use it.
It's Yeah, I knew it would be in there somewhere. I said to draw it out. So.
There's always like a constant fire inside, and I just like throw fonts in there that are terrible. No one should ever use.
So here's the irony of that whole thing. I have no idea what you guys are doing.
Okay, so you may have fallen victim.
We'll fill you in later, Eric. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's right. That's not my space.
Right.
That's why I met Caitlin.
MySpace is where I taught myself how to code. Come on now. But yeah, there's so many, and that's the other thing too, to play into like the professionalism though. If you're using those fonts, like in all seriousness, we can all tell, and we can all tell you did it yourself, and we all can tell that you did it the DIY way of things, and no one, and I'm probably like giving you an extra hard time because I'm a designer, so I see that and like my eyes turn fiery red, but we can tell that it's not as professional as it could be. And if you have such a great message, it kills it.
Yep. Makes sense to me. Well, awesome. Well, we've talked a lot about kind of, the digital space, website, social media, et cetera, right? I'd be curious, like then transitioning to maybe more traditional methods, whether that's, print or maybe networking, which I know you do a ton of networking and have some expertise on that. How can business owners leverage their brand through networking?
Okay. So, as far as the networking group goes, yes, you can always bring a business card or a takeaway item or a swag item if you're at a trade show. There's lots of fun ways to do that. And it's always a great idea to mix traditional and digital marketing together. But as far as networking as a whole goes, I probably network way too much. I probably network 60 hours a month or so because I'm a crazy person. And I do have some good pointers that I've figured out along the way. And some of those would be, one, if you walk into a room and you're not feeling it, by all means, leave. It is not your place. And I know, again, warning label for Caitlin, please. But if you walk in and you have a gut feeling that these are not your people, that it's not the right place that you should be in, nothing lined up to make this happen, everything your day was fire until now, and then you're just adding this networking group on top of it and you're already in a bad mood. If you're not feeling the people, they're probably not your people anyways. You have to vibe with them. You have to vibe with your clients, David. You have to vibe with your clients, Eric. And if you don't, you probably don't want to work with them, and you're probably going to resent them down the line. So let's just kill it now. And as far as just standing there and talking to people, don't be a wallflower. My belief is you can't be a small business owner and not talk to anyone. So don't let the scared version of you inside tell you what to do while you're standing in a room full of 200 people that you don't know. Go and say hi. And a better way to prepare yourself for that, if you're actually that nervous, would be to know why you're showing up, why they're showing up, what they're trying to get out of it, and what you're trying to get out of it. And if those answers don't align, it might not be the right person to talk to, but then go ahead and look at the guest list if it's available before you show up, and pick 5 people you want to talk to, and then find them and book them on your calendar right there in the flesh before you leave the event. You can take their business card. It's great, but you can't see it, but I have a whole entire box, in a way too big of a box full of business cards underneath my desk. Do they all go into a CRM? Yes. Is that the easy way to do it? No. So another suggestion I would have is I have an app on my phone. It's called Popple, and it's one of those digital business cards. And the reason I like that one is because when you scan it, it allows you to give me whatever information you'd like. And then when you do that, you get to see my full-on profile, and you get to save my contact right then and there. You get to book my calendar link right then and there. And then it also tracks me as a person, and it says, hey, there's tags on this, geographical tags, and we met here on this day at this time, and this person gave you name information, etc. That way I go home and 2 days go by and my app says, hey, have you connected with Eric? Nice. And if I haven't, it gives me a good reason to reach out to you. But at the same time, it allows me to track everything. So it serves as a tiny CRM on the back end of things. And then it makes it easier because you don't have to pay someone to put a box full of business cards in a CRM for you.
Not that any of us in this room have ever done that before.
Yeah. I was like, should I keep these?
So, Caitlin, would you say, I believe I know the answer to this, but I ask it anyway, is if you are not effective in those networking interactions, or you are that wallflower, does that have a negative impact, or does that skew the perception of somebody's brand?
It does. It makes it weird. I think if you just show up and stand there and stare at people, it's totally weird because everyone there is to get something out of it usually. Whether it's a social event or a specific business event, it does not matter. If you're the weird person at the end of the table not talking, it's still weird.
No, I think you're right. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. I think the best way, if you really want to force yourself out of that, is to have an it thing. And an it thing, I am known as, you can see in my picture that you guys so kindly put on the front of the episode. I always wear floral blazers or a hat. Don't blame me right now because I'm sitting in my home and I'm not wearing either one of them. But when I'm at a networking event, I always wear a blazer, or I always wear a hat, or, maybe both. And I am now known as the hat girl. First of all, you can find me in a room if no one else is wearing a hat, so you're welcome. And second, I just love a floral blazer. So, but have cool earrings, have a neat tie, give people cool things. I don't know. Some guy that I know walks around with chapstick and gives people chapstick. I don't know. I think that's cool. I'll take it.
Yeah.
So, but then I remember him as a guy with chapstick.
Yeah. No, the reason I wanted to ask you that was I think it's important for people to understand that there's associations that get made to your brand, right, with those interactions. And so if it's an awkward interaction, there's no interaction, and they're like, that guy's just sitting there staring at everybody, right? Then next time they see your brand, they're probably going to associate that feeling with the brand, right? And I think people often don't understand that. So thanks for letting me cover that.
Yeah. Do you guys have an it thing?
Nope. I don't.
So mine I don't have to work. So I'm 6'5". So I'm the hey, who's that tall guy at the event? So that's my
That's easy.
The tall guy with the baby face. That's usually what people remember.
I can be the guy that doesn't want to talk at times. So I usually make it a point when I'm going to a place. I learned to go and find somebody beforehand. I go through and see who's going to be there, and I look for those individuals. Because I've either connected with them in social media or LinkedIn or something like that. Now I walk right up to them because I've got some kind of connection with them. So now I can make that connection. Now I've gotten around enough that everybody kind of knows me. At least I can walk into pretty much any room and half a dozen to a dozen people will know me. And so for the most part, yeah. And so, but it's just, I'm more introvert. So once you get me talking, that's not the issue. It's just making the initial introduction is my challenge. So I also will partner with people when I network. So I'll take somebody with me who's the outgoing, personable person that, will introduce me to people because they don't have any problem walking up, talking to anybody, and they'll go around and introduce me to people. So I usually try and partner up when I'm going out.
Yeah, and I guess my only suggestion to that would be too. I mean, that's a wonderful idea, and I love showing up to a networking event with some of my team because then we get the best of both worlds. But my suggestion though would be, while you do have those 5 people you might want to talk to, don't be a status shopper if someone else decides to talk to you. Meaning, don't keep looking over their shoulder for someone else because it makes them feel unimportant.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Instead of doing that, while you're trying to find these people and you're making your way through, because it's not just like a straight shot, let's be real, find something that you can compliment someone on, or say, hey, like you have cool shoes, or just be friendly, like cheer somebody. It doesn't have to be complicated, but don't let them think that you're not interested in talking to them because you're talking to somebody else or you're looking for something else. Yeah.
That's a great point.
Or just ask them if they know them.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, that awesome advice for networking. You kind of mentioned like trade shows or other events. Anything else you want to touch on kind of in that space and how to leverage branding in those engagements?
Yeah, we've got a handful of events coming up. I'd love some tips there.
Oh, awesome. Yes. So I think we could totally kill it in a room, Eric, just saying. Celebrating it, and it would be a great time. And I'd be like, hey, have you met my friend Eric?
There you go.
Yeah. As far as, trade show and print stuff. So like I mentioned, I worked at an all-women owned print shop in my earlier years. And that's how I actually got into vendor and trade show stuff. So I can design and print anything that you want, including swag items for that kind of thing or event. But it's super important to have a checklist, and I actually have a checklist I can send you if you guys want me to do that for you, of everything that you have at an event if you're the speaker. Or a presenter or having a booth. And so how to brand the room when you haven't even ever been in the room until just now. And that's everything from simple things like signs and business cards to what you're giving away. And then and this is not something you've never heard before, but always interact, like have a way or have something for them to do if they are stopping by to talk to you. And don't just like ask them to buy your book, have them do something. And everyone does candy and a giveaway and a gift card and all that stuff. But if you can gamify it in some way or form, I would do that. I think one of the most genius ideas I've ever heard is I was actually listening to another podcast, and this guy said that he created a marketing campaign, go figure, right? He sent out a bunch of postcards. He advertised on social media, made sure it was a thing on his website that he was going to be at this event. Everyone knew on his email list that he was going to be there. Well, he started putting out these messages, sent out a postcard. That week he had the touch points before you showed up to the event. And he mailed everyone a key to his treasure box. And the treasure box was on the vendor booth table, and he had lines forever because there was only one winner to the treasure box and what the prize was inside. I don't even think anybody knew what the prize was. They just wanted to know if the key worked. Cool. And so they had certain times of day that they would ask you to stop by, and they would keep you updated. I think they did through an app or something about if someone won, and it would still give you a reason to stop by or come back. The reason why people kept coming back is because there was so much excitement built around it. They wanted to see who won and what the prize was. So he didn't tell anyone. And then when there was lines and lines and lines of people, even if the key didn't work, he would stop and talk to them when they were done fidgeting around and trying to see if they won. He would say, hey, well, I have this other thing that we can do or talk about, or this other list that you can sign up for, or this other free giveaway. So you didn't lose, but you kind of did. And now we get to talk. So he was constantly engaging, and I'm actually going to reach out to that guy and be like, tell me everything about this because I want to do it.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
What is the weirdest thing you've been into at a trade show?
Yeah.
Anything?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I just said, what's the weirdest thing you've ever seen at a trade show? Anything? I hate Dave flopping. So.
I've just seen some really bad vendor booths. That's what I'm in my brain going through, no branding, just really awkward,
tablet, just take your information.
Just I go out of my way to avoid it, just kind of those. That's what went in my brain. I started laughing with the visuals of that. But.
No, I was thinking unique. I actually, not bad, but actually it was kind of cool. But they actually had electronic bowl.
Okay.
So they had the electronic bowl, and of course it was here in Arizona, so go figure, right? But they had an electronic bowl, and people were coming up trying to ride the electronic bowl. I have no idea what they were selling, but they had a line of people waiting to ride the bowl.
So there's always something, and it doesn't just have to be candy or, swag items, because even when it comes to swag items too, I think a lot swag items have a pretty good percentage rate as far as staying in someone's closet or drawer for forever, if it's functional or if you think it's cool, but do you stay top of mind is a question. And, you can always do a pen, you can always do a notebook or something normal, but, what can you do? And even to David's point, what, thinking of all of the terrible versions of this, what can you do to make that better? Or what can you make sure not to do?
Right.
And how to improve the customer experience, because it doesn't matter what you're selling because you want to write a bull.
Right. Right.
And then you get their information later. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I actually, to that point, I was actually thinking to myself as I was even saying, I'm like, I wonder if that's actually a bad thing, because it's like, it was such a draw that I wonder how many people actually paid attention to what they were even there for.
Well, the smart thing would have been to have them sign up on some sort of form, or give them your information before you got to write the bull, or giving them, giving them something after saying, I'm so glad you had fun. This is what we do and why there's a bull here. I think it plays into like the storytelling piece, like how does it all connect to each other?
That, to your point, if it was, because I didn't go and write the bull.
Why not?
I did it once on a real bull, and I will never do that again. So we don't need to.
Wow. That's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, that's another story for another show for sure. But no, my whole point is I'm wondering, in retrospect, to your point, you have to get people to sign up or whatever, because the challenge would be, it would be easily lost on the intent, right? It's like, all these people there, but anyway, it's kind of interesting perspective when you think about that. It's like, did they actually get the result from it? Because it seems like it could have been distractive.
Sure.
Yeah. You definitely have to have this strategy just like you do online.
Yeah. There you go. Awesome. Well, just a couple of things I want to pick your brain on. One is, clearly business is going well. You're very successful at what you do. And I think that's awesome. And I think one of the things that jumped out at me as we were prepping for our conversation today was kind of this theme of, female entrepreneurs, women-owned businesses. And so I was curious if you had any advice for anyone in our audience that's maybe a female entrepreneur who's interested in either starting a business or maybe scaling a business.
I would say email me so we can go to an event together, because I would love to have you as a guest. I think that the women organizations and networking groups that I'm a part of the Dames, I'm a part of the Know Women, like Women to Know. They're very strong women business owners, and they do a variety of things, and there's no limitations and there's no exclusivity. And I noticed that they all latch onto each other and pull each other up instead of being out for their own, And I think it's a good business model, and it's a great way to find potential clients, potential partners, and anything else you might want to be getting out of business. And just great advice. Like, they're all very willing to share their stories.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Kind of, we have a lot of different people that watch and listen to this. Who is your ideal client? Like, if there's somebody saying, hey, I need help with branding or whatever, who do you work with?
We work with you if you are tired of the DIY success approach to things, if you are ready to up-level your business and are looking for a new way to sell, and then are ready to possibly hire someone internally for marketing, but don't necessarily, or you may not realize what their workload is and how much better it would be to have a team behind you supporting you with all the things instead of just a couple of things. And then you don't have to pay salary either. So
very cool. And if somebody, they say, okay, I'm decided I want to work with Caitlin, I want to work with her awesome team, what's that process look like of working with the branding specialist? Can you just kind of give us a little preview of that?
Sure. Yeah. So usually you run into me at some point. You probably do. You have to talk to me. I'm sorry. But what comes next really is I do conduct an interview with you, and this isn't anything scary and there's no right answers. I just want to know about you and the business and why you're doing this and what's important and what your goals are. If we can lay out a simple plan like that, then we decide what the next steps are. We usually do things in phases, so you don't have to do everything all at once. if you have a specific goal in mind, we take that and reverse engineer it. So we kind of strategize and then help you implement things. Whether you want to do it or whether you want to hand it off to us is up to you. But we at least give you a roadmap to success, whatever success means to you.
Awesome. Very cool. Okay. Well, anything else you want to share about Copper Theory Creative before we wrap up today?
Well, I think I usually say, if you can't have a beer with me, you can't be my client. So I'd love to get together and have a drink. Also, you can pet my dog named Herbie if you'd like. So I'm very much a dog person, and I used to be real into craft beer. And I know it started as a joke, but it's kind of not anymore. So warning label.
I love it. That's
And
awesome.
then, I just want to say, I guess in wrapping up, I get where everyone is at in business. I started as a one-man show, and I know what the DIY success approach means. And by all means, I've done everything the hard way. So I'm here for you. And if we can figure out how to help you with a process like that, there's an easier way, and I'd love to share whatever that might be.
Awesome. Hey, you had me at beers, dogs, and branding. So that's a good business model.
Yeah.
I have to let you in on a little known fact about David. He has a previous buddy of his, bulldog, French bulldog, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Was it Bernie or Gus?
Bernie? Bernie was in English. Yeah.
Okay. So, but Bernie was the first one that you made the.
Yes.
So the going joke about David was Bernie had a bigger following on Facebook than David did.
It's true. Yeah. And to this day, I follow more bulldogs on Instagram than people. So it's a true story.
No, you're not the only one.
Okay.
I know you live in Utah, but we can at some point get a beer and do a dog gig. But
There you go. Awesome.
You are not the only one. I have gone back and forth so many times about starting an Instagram for good old Herbie over here. I have a 65-pound blue nose pit bull, and he is activity level couch potato. We don't do a lot of anything really. So he is great at accompanying me to drinking beer. And yes, dog food does exist. So talk about branding, right?
I feel like he could have a great brand. I don't know. I think
he does have his own avatar, like myself. I have my own avatar, and he has made it into some brands before. I'm not gonna lie.
Awesome.
So how people think that designers have sneaky things. I'll just put my dog in there if you want.
Nice.
I'll just put it in there if I feel like it. But if it relates, he does make it into some tiny things. I remember I designed a T-shirt for ASU actually, and it's called Peoria Forward. It's their entrepreneurship and innovation sector of things. And I did a full-on T-shirt design, and it had people doing things in the community. But there was a boy and his dog, and that dog was my dog. Did anyone know? No, but I know.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, very good. Well, thanks for all your insights and your time today, Caitlin. I guess, Eric, before we wrap up, anything you want to share about My Biz Coaches?
So I mentioned the new website, right?
You did?
I did. Okay. Yeah. So I mentioned the new website last week. Finally got that live a couple weeks ago. More importantly, we're still updating it. So if there's anything broken on that, feel free to communicate that to info@mybizcoaches.com. We are continuing to add and develop it. We actually are launching the directory for business coaches. So that'll be coming out here very shortly. And then we have we're also creating an entire directory of all of our vetted partners. So people that we highly recommend to our clients. So whether it's a payroll service, a marketing company, a CPA, a lawyer, whatever it might be, you can find the limited portion of them on the site today, but we're actually creating a separate directory with all of those partnerships that we've created with people that we, as I said, have vetted and we have worked with, and we would highly recommend, so that they're being populated to our site as we continue to add people to that. And our clients will actually be able to go to that site as an extension off the website to find those partners that we recommend.
Nice.
That's awesome. I would highly recommend using his directory because, I mean, they're already vetted, like you said, so you don't have to worry about quality of work or anything like that. And if they're a trusted resource, then you're already, halfway there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Half the battle, right?
Yeah.
Love it. Very cool. Well, again, Caitlin, thank you for your time. It's been great, talking branding with you today and everything else. And thanks for being a guest on the show.
Thank you. I
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Awesome. Eric, great hanging out with you as well. And to our audience, we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks.
Bye.